Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. Happy Valentine's Day. We've got some big changes to talk about over the next 7 days. First, we've got some colder air starting to build up there in Canada, and that's going to create a boundary as it dives southbound. Right along this boundary, we are expecting some snow showers over the next couple of days. But as that colder air continues to dive southbound heading into the weekend, that's going to create some lift across those areas into the deep south where we are expecting more rain for them. So if we take a look at the overall hazard map, they do in fact have newly warned winter weather advisories up there in portions of Idaho into Montana. And as the boundary continues to sink, yes, those are winter weather advisories and sporadic winter storm warnings over the Dakotas, through areas into Minneapolis, as well as into portions of, say, Green Bay, Wisconsin, with more snow for them. And we take a look at the seasonal snowfall totals. Yeah, we've been down, folks. Obviously, it hasn't been a very snowy winter. And if you look at some of these areas, wow, looking at the chart of the bottom of the screen here, yeah, that Minneapolis, I was zooming in there, 5 inches of snow for the entire winter. So right now we're under winter weather advisories, expecting some 2 to 4 inches of snow for that area. So that's going to be a welcome relief. And we are still in February, even though it's been a very warm February. In fact, let's take a look how warm it actually has been. I was looking at some of the data, folks, taking back all the years, going back all the way to 132 years ago, essentially from 1893 to now, and where we are today through that 12th time frame. Wow. I mean, some of these areas into Minneapolis, up here into Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan, that is number one, folks, the warmest it's been in February so far. But not just them, even up into portions of Maine, up there into New England, right there into the top 5. But it's been plenty warm for pretty much all the lower 48, as much well above average temperatures what we've seen so far. So we are expecting a little bit of a cool down, even though it does appear to be short. But we are expecting some colder temperatures to start funneling in from a modified Arctic air mass. So those, as you wake up on Friday morning, yeah, these are some of your actual low temperatures from the National Weather Service. Yeah, those teens dropping all the way down into South Dakota, 20s into Nebraska, those 20s, that freezing line dips all the way into portions of Kentucky. So we do have some, at least, colder air to talk about, even though it does look to be short-lived. But it also is going to bring some of those snow showers. Well, we are highlighted those winter weather advisories and some winter storm warnings. Here's the snowfall estimates over the next 2 days. And this swath of blue here, that's a good 2 to 4 inches. We are expecting right along this boundary through Montana, through South Dakota, into the Minnesota region, in through portions of Wisconsin, into Michigan, and all the way up in here into the Great Lakes, essentially from now till Friday morning time frame. And as the colder air continues to move southbound, yes, it's going to moderate. So, and then of course the precipitation chances lessens a little bit, but it's going to create some lift for those areas further south, well south. We're talking Brownsville, Rio Grande Valley area into Texas, into the Houston Metroplex, right along this boundary into Lake Charles, into Mobile, back into the Florida Panhandle. We should get some rain probabilities increasing as we get into that Friday afternoon, Saturday morning time frame. And then the snow line drifts a little bit further south. So those areas into portions of Missouri, into central and southern Illinois, into Indiana and Ohio could pick up, you know, a dusting to maybe 2 inches of snow. So if we look at some of the snowfall estimates over that 24-hour time frame from, you know, essentially from Friday morning to Saturday morning, yeah, we're looking at some, you know, a dusting to possibly 1 inch, maybe 2 inches in some of these isolated parts across this boundary, as that colder air will continue to dive southbound. And as it does, that's going to drag at least some snow opportunities back in the picture around these regions into the Ohio Valley and back into the Mid-Atlantic. We're not expecting much, but don't be surprised to get, some an inch or two of snow out of this deal, heading into that Friday morning into the Saturday afternoon time frame. So, but moving on, we've got some colder air that continues to plunge southbound, and actually it reaches all the way down into the Gulf Coast. So everybody's actually going to feel this cold front, even though it is going to be modified as it drops further south. But considering where we've been for the month of February, it's going to be a welcome relief and feeling a lot more like February, even though it is going to be short-lived. So heading into that Saturday time frame, it's going to be windy for those areas into the southern plains, into the southeast, but we are expecting some 10 to 15, maybe some sporadic 20 below average temperatures as that colder air continues to plunge southbound. And like I mentioned, it does create that lift. So it's really going to be confined around those areas well south into South Texas, right along the I-10 corridor here. And there is the boundary of that colder air that will continue to plunge southbound into Saturday afternoon. And by Sunday morning, it will reach all the way down into the deep south. So by Sunday afternoon, by Saturday afternoon, there's your actual instability and the lift mechanism. Notice there's not much precipitation left, right? It kind of dries up behind that front, but out ahead of it, you still are in the warm sector, and you still got some rain showers across those areas well to the south here, while all eyes will be starting to trend out west into California, with definitely some more rain heading in for next week. But this is the coldest temperatures into Sunday, the most widespread coldest temperatures for your Sunday morning time frame, as that colder air will reach all the way into the Gulf Coast. So yeah, that's a good 70% of the country will be waking up with freezing conditions. All those areas highlighted in blue, it will definitely feel a lot more like February than it has been feeling like April lately. Even though it does look to be short-lived, we are expecting a colder weekend on tap for many areas. But then all eyes trend out into the Pacific Ocean, because now we're looking at the Pacific jet. And when this thing gets cranking, it's El Nino driven. It usually brings in more of a zonal flow across the U.S. and a much warmer flow into the U.S. And that's exactly what we're going to be seeing, as we're going to have another conveyor belt of moisture starting to build out there into the Pacific, where we've got several of these atmospheric river events starting to come together, likely starting on Sunday, but going into that Monday, Tuesday, really most of all of next week. The West Coast definitely looks to be very wet, while much of the lower 48 quickly rebounds. So yes, that's going to quickly drive in more of that zonal flow, that Pacific jet, and that's a warm flow. And once those winds turn around from the southwest, not going to take long to elevate those temperatures well above average again for a good part of the western regions. But eventually that will actually sneak into our eastern zones, and most everybody will definitely be on the warmer side again. But all instability will be really confined those areas out west. This is your essentially your water vapor transport index heading into that Monday afternoon time frame. We've got another formidable low pressure center coming ashore across the West Coast, pumping in all that warmer Pacific flow here, and that's just going to pound the state of California again, where they got hit hard for about 7 days there in a row just about 10 days ago. They're going to get hit hard again, because looks to be several systems again, back to back, pounding those areas across the West Coast, adding to those flood concerns, and what will definitely be flooding concerns for sure as we get into early next week, because we've got another formidable, powerful load, another 991 millibar low pressure center going into that Monday afternoon time frame, really to impact those areas across Washington and Oregon, getting into northern central California, but eventually that will actually creep into southern California again. Notice most of the lower 48 is going to be on the drier side, and notice where that red freezing line is. Yeah, that shifts well back up into Canada again. So those colder temperatures will be a distant memory as we head into next week, and all eyes and all the moisture will be really confined to those areas across the west. So they basically take everything. The entire state of California just gets pummeled again with heavy rain, high winds. We're probably looking at some more mudslides, landslides, and likely some more power outages across these regions as we get deeper into that Monday, Tuesday timeframe, with flood watches likely highlighted across pretty much the entire state. Obviously, those areas are soaked. They don't need any more rain. So this is going to be aggravated injury to what's already on the ground and into those reservoirs there as well, as they're definitely starting to fill up. And most of the state is really not even in a drought anymore. But heading into next week, going into that Tuesday time frame, here's your high temperatures, folks, as temperatures quickly rebound, right? So we got that cold reprieve to start the week and the big change ahead, but then it quickly changes back again with those well above average temperatures and those 70s lifting well into the Texas, getting back into Oklahoma, and those 60s start to creep into Illinois, as the freezing temperatures will be heading back into Canada and well north as you got more of a zonal flow moving back in. But all the moisture, again, is like really pretty much confined to the West Coast. And that's exactly what the Climate Prediction Center is highlighting there, not just for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but even beyond that. Those areas into Washington and Oregon and all of California and most of the desert Southwest into Arizona should likely pick up heavier flooding rains in the coming days. And by the time we get into Wednesday next week, it's a rapid flip, right? So we've got those 10 to 15, 20 degrees below average temperatures to kind of start where we are now and building through the weekend. And then, we bottom out on Sunday, and then it quickly rebounds heading into Monday. And so by the time we head into that Wednesday time frame, 7 days from now, it's back to basically where we've been, right? With 20 degrees above average temperatures highlighted over the central part of the U.S. and even starting to creep into 25 degrees above average for those areas into the upper Midwest. So plenty of big changes on the way, with the cool down and the snow confined to our northern tiers. But then we've got the rapid surge in those temperatures, and then all eyes will trend out west, where they got a deluge of moisture that's going to be started on Sunday and then really likely going into most of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.